One of my first clients, a guy who has $500 million, still didn't feel good about himself, right? Because there's no end of that, right? There's not enough money that you can make. There's not enough sex you can have. There's not enough booze you can drink to feel good. So you made a choice. And this is where we've been getting to, Rae. The difficult conversation began with yourself. Welcome, badass entrepreneurs. It's time to hear the world's movers, shakers, and difference makers spill their secrets for unlimited success. So strap in, for Badass Entrepreneurs Only begins now. Welcome, badass entrepreneurs. I am Coach Dan Gordon, and welcome to another edition of For Badass Entrepreneurs Only. So today, my guest is Rae Fung, and she is a speaker. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, wow, Coach Dan, a speaker. Where'd you find one of those? What a tough get. But let me tell you why I wanted Rae specifically on the show and why Rae is a badass. So Rae suffered a silent torment that most entrepreneurs suffer, and that is self-doubt, self-judgment, and at times self-hatred. She had societal pressure, social pressure, peer pressure, parental pressure. It was like a boulder weighing down on her soul. But Rae made a decision to take back her self-esteem. She began having the tough conversations with her parents and herself, the conversations she did not want to have. She began building her goals and building a business based on her vision of living a guilt-free and purpose-driven life. Now, Rae, with her business, Own Your Voice with Rae, has spoken to and trained over 5,000 people globally. She is a professional MC, having served global clients include the United Nations Development Program, Citibank, DBS, and many, many more. Let's get into the conversation. Rae Fung, welcome, welcome, welcome to For Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Yes, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And I'm proud to be a badass entrepreneur, and I'm so excited for our conversation. Now, this is the second time I'm speaking to you, Dan, and the
That's right.
first time I had it with you. I think we quickly realized just how much we resonate with each other, how much there's a synergy in our work and our being. And after that first conversation about business, spirituality, lots of
Hmm.
that, which I'm excited to go into today. I was so excited for this conversation. I can't believe we're having it now. So I'm like, it's 10 p.m.
Well,
here, but so excited.
okay, so let's get into it. I want to talk about what it was like for you growing up with this crushing low self-esteem. What was going on for you?
Yeah, as you mentioned really rightly, like growing up, I was in this environment where I was told I needed to do well in school, get good grades, be the most good looking. And I was doing everything I can to be seen and to be recognized and to be told that I was of value, as every kid wants since
Yeah.
young. I don't think it's just entrepreneurs, but anybody. We just want to be seen and be told that we have value in this world. And that was all I wanted from young. But everything that was around me in terms of the grades I was getting, the opportunities I wasn't getting, the
Yeah.
friends that I didn't have, or so I thought in my perspective. I just felt like I wasn't worthy of a voice. I looked around me, I saw people who had a voice, were people who were the coolest, who had the most friends, who did the best in class, and I didn't identify with any of those things. So I told myself that I didn't deserve a voice to speak.
Mm.
So that was kind of the torment that I had. I
And
mean,
and Ray,
more
just
in hindsight.
just
Yeah.
just for context, where did you grow up and where are you?
Sure. Yes. I grew up in Singapore and I love Singapore. It's very safe. It allows me to go out at night without feeling like anything's gonna happen. But I think for most people that I've spoken to that visit Singapore for the first time, they might describe Singapore as quite rigid, maybe very
Mm.
structured, maybe very planned, like people are very risk averse. I mean, those are
Yeah.
some words I've heard used to describe
Yeah.
Singaporeans. But we have many good traits too. It's just that, these are some words that I identify with. Risk averse. I planned my life perfectly. I wanted everything to work out according to my plans. But the problem was when my plans wasn't working out, I felt like it was a disaster and I felt like I wasn't going to be successful in life. And I
And
found
so
ways
and
to
and so
escape.
how wait, how old were you at this point when you
I
started thinking these
was,
thoughts?
hmm, I think for every phase of my life, there was a different worry. When I was
Yeah.
like 12 years old, 13 years old, that was primary school
12
setting.
years old. Yeah.
I was worried about how I looked. I was worried about the fact that I didn't have cool friends. I wasn't in the cool clique, right? And then I kind of got over that over the years, and I was worried more about my grades, right? About my future when I was like
Mm,
17, 18 years old. We're studying for A levels that would get us into university, and I really wanted to get into a good university, a local university. And and I think that every phase of my life, the key theme was I just didn't feel good enough,
mm.
essentially.
And so, what are the types of things that you did to feel good enough?
Yeah. Because I couldn't find my, or rather, I didn't think that I deserve a voice in school or within my friends. I was trying so hard to find a way to be seen and be heard. And when I was in secondary school, I was the president of the community service club.
Mhm. Yeah.
And at that point in time, our club was also serving in the local community center, and I became quite involved with community work. And they were looking for someone to MC the programs over there, like the bursary award ceremonies, the family carnivals. And I thought to myself, yeah, I'm not getting paid, but it's good for my portfolio and it's good for charity. Can't
Hmm.
just say no, so I volunteered. And what started out as a way for me to feel good about myself, what started out as a way for me to build my confidence, quickly became a source of joy for me. I realized I really enjoyed meeting new people at events, being able to bring joy to people's smiles to people's faces at these events, and bring the energy up in the room. And emceeing became my first medium of service to the world. And I started emceeing when I was 15 years old.
Okay,
Yeah.
so hold on. So I got to stop you because you're glossing over a very important part of this, right? Which is like this is like classic Ray. You are glossing over the really hard part of this, right? Going from someone who is struggling, who doesn't feel good about herself, your grades, your looks, like I mean, just classic, right? Of a young person. And then like, oh, I'm going to MC. Like this is not an easy jump, right? So knock it off, Ray. We're going to have the conversation that you don't want to have because that's what you started doing, right? And look, it's in your bio that you started having these difficult conversations. And these difficult conversations started with your parents, right? And
Yeah.
and look, our parents, like they all do the best that they can, but it's the epicenter of our struggles. Our parents are the epicenter of the trauma that we experience. And it's not like our parents necessarily do traumatic things to us, but we have a belief about what love is, in our tiny little souls. And it's very rare actually that we and our parents align perfectly in that definition of love, right? And so we start to have doubts that we're lovable. And
Mhm.
that it's clear to me, Ray, that that took hold on you very early. Am I
Mhm.
lovable? Am I worthy? Right? Because if we don't get the kind of love that we want from our parents right away, those questions take hold and they get into our soul and they start to deteriorate who we are. So how did you start to move from that low space to take action? Like, what are the conversations that you had that you didn't want to have?
I feel like the toughest conversations I needed to have and I first had was unknowingly with myself, not with my parents yet.
Okay. So
Um,
let's talk about those conversations, Ray.
yeah, and I didn't think I was, oh, I'm having tough conversations, but it was these conversations I needed to have. I remember earlier on when I was around 14 or 15 years old, that was when I really identified that I think that was one of the lowest points in my life because the buildup of the unworthiness and the self-doubt and the looking down at myself kind of all built up to when I was 15. And I don't know, there's a magical age about when you're a teenager, when you
Yeah.
suddenly everything just comes crashing down. And 15 years old or 14 to 15 years old was that age for me. So at that point in time, I was also doing a bit of serving in the church and I was singing. I was like a I don't know why I choose all these hard jobs for myself. Like at low salary, I decided to MC and I decided to put myself on stage. And
Hmm.
I'm such a soft-spoken person. I remember my choir teacher needed to like tell me to come on, speak up. And I'm like, no, I don't want people to hear me. I mean, that was the state of my self-worth and my self-esteem back then. And at that point in time, before I actually realized I needed to have tough conversations with myself, I was actually looking towards others to give me the validation that I needed, to tell me that I was
Right.
good enough, or to just give me attention. And at that
Yeah.
point in time, the person that was giving me attention was my choir leader. And I realized that, even though there were 10 people in choir, she would give me more attention if I was posting like emo stuff on Facebook. By the way, I've never said this on the podcast before. This is
It's
so
okay.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
But
No.
but I realized that she was giving me more attention if I was posting like sad, emotional things on Facebook.
Mm.
And the more I posted these things, the more she would text me and go, hey, what's up? I just want to check in on you. And, I realized that at that point in time, the belief I was creating in my mind is that I needed to be heard. I needed to show that I'm sad in order to get attention. And I was really using social media at that point in time to like share my sadness so that I could get attention from her. And whenever I was fine and happy, I wouldn't really get attention from her, which is in no way her fault because
Yeah. Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
not
Yeah. I see what
meant
you're
to
saying.
like be my
Sure.
mom,
Yeah. Right.
you know. But but I kept looking for other people to give me that validation. And after her was the boys that I was dating or
Yeah.
whoever I was looking at. And that kept happening. And every time the person did not meet the expectation of the love or the validation I wanted, in my emotional state just crashed back down. I just go
Mm.
into a spiral of thinking, I'm not worthy for someone's attention, blah, 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 blah. And I really reached a point where I was so sick and tired for needing to depend on others for validation that I reached a breaking point and I really truly surrendered. I actually there was one point in time I cried out to God. I was like, God, why is it so
Mm.
painful? Why do you make me this way? I remember I was
What
just like in so
and,
much
and
pain.
Ray, this is really beautiful. What do you think brought you to that crashing point?
Feeling, well, I think what brought me to the crashing point was just I've tried everything I could
Mm.
to get that validation based on what I could control, what I think I could control, and nothing worked.
Mm.
I didn't feel worthy. Like I tried everything I can, and I didn't feel
Yeah.
worthy. And I'm like, I don't know what to do anymore. I think that's that point of surrender. It's like, I don't know what to do. Please, just let this pain go away. I
Mm.
I remember vividly like crashing onto my bed and just shouting and saying that, shouting silently actually, because my parents
Yeah.
were outside and
Mm.
and saying that to God, please tell me like why. Like I just want this pain to go away. I think that was like my first point of surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful because look, as a young woman, you're especially susceptible to getting in some really bad situations when you're crying out for that pain to go away. Right? You can get into some pretty ugly relationships or some pretty ugly situations where you can quickly find yourself in some pretty desperate circumstances. Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's happened to me. I think, I mean, one example would be, I think during my junior college days, so 17,
Hmm.
18 years old, I was at that point where I was looking for love, looking for validation. And,
Yeah.
growing up, I've watched movies that told me that if I had a boyfriend, that means I'm attractive.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
was looking for someone that I was looking for my first boyfriend, basically. I was like, I need to have a boyfriend and then I'm good enough. So I had
Mm.
pretty low standards then. I didn't really think about what it means to be in a relationship. I just wanted a relationship to show me that I was worthy, essentially.
Yeah.
At 17, I remember saying yes to this boy that I liked, saying yes to this boy who asked me to be his girlfriend on the first date,
Mm.
right? I remember what I was thinking in my mind. I was like, great, I have someone
Right.
to hang out with. But as if that's the only thing that a relationship meant, right? Having someone to hang out with. But really, my heart just was brimming with that, was basically saying, wow, that means I'm seen, that means you're worthy. And so I just accepted that relationship, even though we were so misaligned,
Hmm.
and quickly turned into quite a possessive relationship. Like he became very possessive. He wanted me to not hang out with my friends. I
Mm.
mean, he had his own traumas as well, which is why he acted that way. I and despite all that hurt and all that misery that I was going through, I didn't want
Yeah.
to let it go because in my mind I thought, where am I gonna find someone to love me this way?
Right. It's like a lifeline, right?
Yeah, who
It's like,
else can show me this much attention?
yeah. And when you're in that situation, and thank you so much for your honesty in this, because you who are listening right now can definitely relate, because even if it's not this same kind of thing, when we're in pain, we reach out and we go to the places where we can believe we can quickly relieve the pain, right? It's why people turn to alcohol or drugs or sex or gambling, like any of these things, right? We just
Mm,
want the pain to go away. And what we very rarely realize is that the pain is generated from within us. It's generated from our own thinking, right? It's generated from a want to feel good about ourselves. And
yeah,
I don't
and
know, please go ahead.
I really want to just jump in and say that
Yeah.
even after I got over this whole getting into bad relationships thing, it still showed up. It showed
Mm-hmm.
up even when I was freelancing and I was getting clients. It showed up when I was in rooms where I listened to quote unquote mentors who I thought knew better than me, and instead of choosing things I wanted for my life, I decided to seek to them for their advice and their attention. And it also showed up when I ran my coaching business, when I started coaching for the first time, in the first year of running my coaching business, in the way I showed up during sales calls, right? In
Mm.
my mind, I was thinking, I need to close this sale because deep down, if I don't close it, then I'm going to feel like I'm a failure. I'm going to feel like
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I'm going to feel like I can't make it. So there are times I think my first, well, not really my first two, like maybe my third and fourth client, I remember that during the call in my mind, I really felt that they weren't aligned clients,
Mm-hmm.
but because they would pay me money, I just said yes. Because in my mind,
Yeah.
I thought, wow, that it means that I'm on my way to becoming a successful entrepreneur. As if that result, I was looking to use that result to validate my worth
Right.
in the industry. So
And it's
it's
so, yeah.
gonna show up until you do that work to heal. And you have to be honest with yourself and truthful with yourself, because sometimes it shows up so subtly, and people don't just escape through alcohol, the obvious stuff. They escape
Mm-hmm.
through workaholism, being a
Yeah.
workaholic. They escape
Yeah.
through travel. They escape through scrolling on social media for hours. I mean, all these little escapes is so justifiable logically. You're like, yeah, I'm taking a break, but actually it could be escaping. And it's important to be so truthful with yourself.
So and again, thank you very much for sharing this. You essentially, Ray, made a choice of, I'm going to start feeling worse, right? I'm going to take all of these things I'm doing, and it's really beautiful the way that you describe them. It's like, okay, I'm going to get attention from my choir teacher by being fragile and broken. Like, ooh, okay, all right, now I'm done with that. Now it's on to boys. Now it's this. Now it's that, right? And it's so easy to think, well, I'm going to heal myself by not doing this fragile thing anymore, or I'm not going to do this boy thing anymore, or I'm not right. And we keep thinking it's the circumstances, right? And so if we stop doing the circumstantial thing, everything's going to work out. But really, we're just jumping to the next thing that creates an instant good feeling for us. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's about the money, right? Well, when I make a lot of money, then I'll feel good about myself, right? So I'm going to mortgage my self-esteem until I make X amount of dollars, and then I'll be okay. One of my first clients, a guy who has $500 million, still didn't feel good about himself, right? Because there's no end of that, right? There's not enough money that you can make. There's not enough sex you can have. There's not enough booze you can drink to feel good. So you made a choice. And this is where we've been getting to, Rae. The difficult conversation began with yourself. I'm going to
Mm,
allow myself to feel bad, to
mm.
uncover the things I'm really struggling with. And what did you discover, Rae? What were those conversations?
Well, the first conversation I needed to have with myself was to sit down and just realize that I feel like shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like I
Yeah.
do. I feel like shit. I don't know how to deal with it, but I feel like shit. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think just acknowledging that I feel like shit but have no solution was what I needed to do because I think
Mm,
young I've just been told, okay, you have a problem, find the solution. What's the solution? Let's move on, right? I think from young we never, well, at least from where I'm from and my upbringing, we were never really taught to feel our emotions, to
mm-hmm.
just acknowledge them and not label them as good or bad and
Yeah.
just feel them. And I didn't know how. In my mind, it's like, okay, this feels like shit. I need to find a solution to solve it so I can be more productive and do well in my studies or get good grades or do the
Mm,
thing that gets me to success. Because once again, like you mentioned, I thought I needed to be successful, then I'll be happy. But I think just sitting down and realizing, look, I'm not happy. I don't know what needs to change, but I'm not. Right. So I
mm-hmm.
think that was the start of the tough conversation. But even though I realized that, I didn't know how to continue having those conversations with myself. I didn't really have that self-awareness yet. So what I did was I looked for communities that could teach me how to be more self-aware. So that's how I kind of found my first mentor and coach,
Mm,
right? And my first mentor and coach, they were the ones that taught me how to observe my thoughts, how to ask myself the difficult questions like, what is it do you really want in your life? What exactly are your gifts, your strengths? Instead of looking to your parents or society to tell you what's the right path, what is the path that you want, you know? And I
right.
didn't know. I did not know what I want. That's the frustrating thing. But
Yeah.
awareness is the first step. And I think just realizing that I don't know, as opposed to continuing to run the hamster wheel of chasing the
Mm-hmm.
next thing, stopping myself and going, you know what, I really don't know. I think that was the first step.
Yeah. Because, Ray, when you don't feel good about yourself, the idea of what I want doesn't exist, right? What I truly want, because what I want is the thing to make the pain stop, right?
Mm,
If you're in physical pain, that's all you can focus on, right? I just want that pain to like you're not planning for your future or right? Like, thinking about your mortgage or anything. Like you're just thinking this is in pain. So you actually went into that pain deeper
mm,
to
mm.
resolve it, right? And then you started asking yourself that question. And you did a great thing. You asked for help. So few people do that, right? Oh, it's my problem. I have to work it out. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Nothing great ever happened alone. Nothing
Yep.
great ever happened alone. So you
Yeah.
sought out help. You started talking with people. You started looking towards communities of
Mm-hmm.
progressive, healthy people, right? And you look at these
Yes.
communities, and this is the badass part of you, Rae, is you look at these communities and you knew this is not going to instantly make me feel better, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
boyfriend idea or whatever else it was. Like this is going to be, I have no idea what this is going to do, but the other shit isn't working. Let's give this a try. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, 100%.
Mm.
That's what happened. But
And so
was that the ultimate solution? No.
what
Because
did you start to discover?
so here's the thing, right? I was with this group of mentors and coaches for like 3 to 4 years. And then after
Mm.
that, I think that we have many mentors in life and sometimes
Yes.
we quote unquote graduate, right? So at that point in time, the first 2 years, I gained so much. They were the ones that showed me the world of personal development. Like I've never read a personal development or any book apart from when I studied literature and I had to because of my grades. I've never read any book or listened to any podcast. And
Mm.
I literally did not think there was any other way to success than to get a job. Unless I was rich and could start brick and mortar business, right? I was
Yeah.
really that unaware, but no, seriously. I mean, it sounds really crazy right now, but in the past, I thought there was only one way to success, but that was the way I was sold.
Yeah.
So when I was in this community of people, I noticed people were freelancing, they had their own parkour business, they were tuition teachers, or even people who were in school will be doing tuition at the side, just finding other ways to diversify their
Mm.
income. And in my mind, I was like, wow, I can actually make money elsewhere. I didn't think about that, right?
Yeah.
And I discovered the power of, I think the key thing that I took away from the first 2 years of being in that mentorship community is that I have the power to design my life.
Yeah.
That was the most important thing I took away. I can design my life and I have options. That was the one thing that I really, really took away. That
Yeah.
belief that I can make things work, even if I didn't do the best in my studies. And I have a choice to design my life in accordance to my own gifts and my own beliefs. I think that was the most important thing I took away.
Mm.
But along the way, because I was so attached to wanting what I believe was success, which was, you know, be seen by others, be recognized by others, get many people to follow me and be in, quote unquote inspired by me to earn the money.
Yeah.
As I put that idea of success on the pedestal still, what happened was I was essentially putting my mentor on the pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
That was year 3 and year 4. The problem came back, which was I was looking for him to validate me as a successful entrepreneur. And obviously, I'm sharing this on hindsight because
Yeah.
when it was happening back then, I didn't know that was what I was doing. In
Right.
my mind, I just thought I suck at this entrepreneurship thing. I felt that sense of unworthiness again. And I was looking for towards this mentor to tell me, Rae, you're doing a good job,
Yeah.
right? But
And so
unfortunately,
look at this, right?
I wasn't.
Right. So you and this is important because you make this big decision, right? To shift your life and to do things in a new way, to have the hard conversations. And yet it doesn't mean it instantly heals everything, right? Because you find yourself right back in the situation where you were with your choir teacher, right? And everything
Exactly.
else. Because we're always going to, right? Unless we are vigilant, we're always going to go right back into that well-worn groove of what feels good, right? And
100%.
so okay, like, but eventually you began to recognize that there was something unique in you. And that's what drove you to create your own voice. So let's talk about that. How did that come about?
Mm. It was such a long drawn process. I mean, I think I first started seeing the value of my voice
Mm-hmm.
when I started sharing a little bit more about my journey and my learnings from books on social media,
Mm-hmm.
just for fun. Back then, using Instagram to share snippets of the books that I was reading, my thoughts, photos of me emceeing, giving some tips on how to own your presence on stage. I was just doing it for fun, as an outlet to just be seen and
Yeah.
hopefully help others along the way, right? And that was just my way of sharing my knowledge. And in my final year of university at that point in time, I have been in the personal development space for a couple of years. I took on a couple of free gigs, when a friend started a new startup. He said, "Hey, Rae, can you speak at my event about networking?" I thought, okay, sure, cool. I've
Yeah.
never done that before. Let me do it. So I spoke for free. And the response I got was really surprising to me. I didn't think that people would notice, but people commented on my Instagram post. They dropped me a
Mm.
message. Just, Rae, thanks so much for sharing this. I really resonate with your story of how you blanked out in school before and how you overcame that. Thanks for sharing these tips. I use these tips and I actually did so much better in my work presentation. And that particular free networking thing that I did for my friend, I got a client through it. Someone dropped me a message and said, "Hey, Rae, I saw my colleague post a video about you sharing about networking. Do you have a coaching program?" And I was like, "Oh my God, wow, like, how did this
Right.
happen?"
So
But all
this
I
is
did
really
was
cool.
on it. Yeah.
Because look at this, right? Eventually you stopped going after this thing that you thought would make you feel good about yourself. And what happened? You got it when you stopped trying to get it, right? You wanted all this attention, you wanted all this appreciation. And you said, I'm going to just forget about that. I'm going to go down this personal development route. I'm going to learn about myself. I'm going to, right? And this person says,
Right.
hey, will you come and speak at my event? Like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but what the hell, right? And now you're getting all of this attention, but it's coming at you in a very different way, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I didn't try so hard to get it. It just
Right.
happened. When I was doing what I love and when I was just being curious about how I can grow my skills.
Right. And so this is the distraction that I talk about a lot because what you did is you focused on being in service. Your friend needed help. You came to help your friend. You're talking with people who need networking help. You went there to help them. You didn't go to sell them anything. You didn't go there to get, the
Mm-hmm.
attention. You just focused on being in service. Now, look, I'll be clear. I'm a capitalist. I like big expensive things and I like making a lot of money. So don't think that that's not the case. But what I know is that when I stop focusing on the things that I think will make me happy, I get those things in a very different way. And that's what I see you've done. Would that be accurate?
100%, right? I'm not saying I'm perfect. In fact, I am still on this journey of truly being happy without external validation because
Mm-hmm.
what I shared about me getting my first client and all that, that was the beginning, right?
Yeah.
At that point in time when I got my first few clients and I was making money from coaching, I thought, wow, I'm at the top of the mountain. It can't get any better, you know? I'm like, wow, okay, throw me any challenge. But I was wrong, there's more. And
Yeah,
then
right.
it just shows you all these challenges and you go through ups and downs and ups and downs. I mean, that started my journey into coaching. When I got my
Mm,
first client, I did not have a coaching program, but I custom made one for him. And then
yeah.
I did that for a number more people. I saw a pattern. I created a program from that pattern. I mean, I developed the program over time. But what happened was I still was so tied to my value. I was still so tied to drawing my value from my work because that was that habit that I had, or rather that was my conditioning and pattern. And I became a workaholic. So I
Uh-huh.
work all the time. I work 24/7.
Yeah.
In my mind, the belief that I was holding on to is I am worthy when I work. So I really
Mm,
burned myself out. I was going through rounds of burnout. And I think that was the other point of surrender that I had to go through. I feel like I feel like I've been through so many points of these lives and this death and life, like death of a new life, death of
yeah.
an old life and welcoming the new life. So I've definitely been through so many of those cycles. And life throws you a different challenge all the time for you to realize something new about yourself.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So life is filled with opportunities. Something that Rosalind and I try to remind ourselves is nothing happens to us. Everything happens for us,
Mm.
right? We had somebody crash their car into our fence, right? And they don't have insurance. And now we don't know if they're going to pay for it. So we got to pay for it out of pocket. And it's thousands of dollars, right, to fix this. And we really want to feel victimized, but we don't let ourselves go there. We are saying this is happening for us. We don't know why, but it will reveal itself.
Yeah.
And like, who knows? Maybe that's fantasy, but staying in that mindset is what prevents us from going down that rabbit hole, right? That you've been talking about of feeling bad, right? That, oh, we are victims. And, in your country, there's a lot of pressure to perform and be great. In
Mm.
this country, we tend to try to offload our feelings onto other people. There's a lot of blaming in America. Like,
Mm.
you triggered me, you shamed me, you did this to me. Everything would be fine if you hadn't said this. And there's very little responsibility taken for creating one's own life. And I
Mm.
and I think that's pretty global right now in different cultures in different ways. And it's why I'm doing For Badass Entrepreneurs. It's why I'm doing a lot of things that I do is to bring global consciousness to the
And
concept that we create our lives.
so powerful. I mean, one thing that I catch you saying is that the victimization and the blaming shows up differently in different cultures. I realized from where I'm from in Singapore, maybe in like the Asian culture, there's a lot of blaming of yourself. Maybe we don't blame other people
Right.
directly or like verbally, but we're blaming ourselves or we're blaming the person by gossiping to another person. But the whole point is we blame others or we whine and moan, right?
Mm,
Blame, moan and whine, right? That's what we do. But when we do that, we're not taking responsibility for our lives and we are staying in that victim state. We're not allowing ourselves to see that we have the power to change the course of our life. And so many
right.
people stay in that victim state because it gives them the immediate gratification of release. Oh, you know what? If it's someone else's fault, or it's because I wasn't born in a better family, I wasn't rich, I'm not like that person. They just blame all these circumstances so they don't actually have to have the tough conversation with themselves
Mm,
and do the hard work. And I've realized in my life that when I decide to take responsibility of my life and to believe that things, like you mentioned, things happen for me instead of against me, that's when I see magic and possibility happen. That's when the opportunity, the aligned people reveal themselves in due time.
it's really
Yeah.
touching. And I so honor your willingness to go here, right? Because like look where we started this conversation. Oh, I this tough thing happened and then something great happened and everything was perfect. And I really admire you going into the
Oh,
middle part
thanks
because,
for holding space for that.
yeah, well, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So tell us briefly, like last question, owning your voice. What is that? What do you do? How do you do it? What is the thrust of your business?
Yeah. Um, Before I share that, is it okay if I share something as a reflection of our conversation? And this
Yeah, of
would
course.
tie in very nicely to why I talk about owning your voice.
Mhm.
The truth is that no one will fully understand your world. No one will fully understand your challenges, your decisions. No one can even begin to understand like your dreams, your desires. And I've spent my entire life wanting others to validate me for my dreams, to tell me that I'm on the right path. But the realization I've gotten is no one will fully understand. I will not be able to get that validation. Like people can love you so deeply, and yet they will hurt you with their ignorance and their words because they don't understand you. They can offer to hold space for you, but only you will understand the meaning of your tears, the meaning of your spiraling, and ultimately you are on your journey of life. You are here to have your own back. And I think that is really the crux of the importance of owning your voice. You need to own your voice because if you do not own your voice, someone else will own it for you.
Mm.
Someone else will control you. Someone else will have your self worth and your happiness in the palm of their hands. And I think all of us, I can say all of us, want to live a life we are proud of. And you will only be able to live a life you're proud of when you are in control of your life. And that is the crux of owning your voice. You know that you have owned your voice. I mean, maybe not owned, but you know that you're on the journey of owning your voice when you're taking time to build a deeper relationship with your voice. So what I really do is I essentially help rising leaders, people in corporate who want to use their voice for more, or entrepreneurs who actually use their business and their brand to impact the world. I help these rising leaders build a strong trust with their voice so that they can develop their own unique sense of self. And that is going to be reflected in the message that they share to the world and the way they show up in the world. That makes them better leaders. So a
Mm.
lot of people come to me, they come to me because they want to be better speakers, better communicators, they want to create better content. Yes, that is the result you get. And I do teach the strategy portion of that. But they come to me, and the reason why they're drawn to my program specifically is because they know the importance of the inner work. Maybe they don't know it completely yet, but from the way I talk about it, the way I share my story, they see the importance of it, and they know that they have to do the inner work. And so I help them both on the inner work aspect and the outer work aspect, both building that stronger relationship with your voice and how do you work on the way you deliver, the way you present on stage, etc., etc. So that's really the crux of what it means to own your voice.
Wow. So, Rae, I'm going to challenge you.
Sure.
Right. On this show, I ask my guests to provide a digital giveaway. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to write an ebook called "The 10 Ways to Own Your Voice." And so you have between now, when we're talking, and when this episode drops, to create that ebook. And to get that book, all you have to do is text Rae's name, RAE, to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text Rae, RAE, to download the 10 ways to own your voice. RAE, 213-409-8366. Will you do it, Rae?
Sure, I like that challenge. I'll do it.
All right. And finally, how can we get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me by going on Instagram. It's my favorite platform. It's at Rae Matrix, or I actually share more intimate details my behind the scenes on my email list. That's where you can find me, as in my link in bio on Instagram as well.
Okay. And so where are you on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn at Rae Fung, RAEFUNG.
Okay. And your website, where to?
Yeah, raefung.com. That's my website, raefung.com.
Rae, I think we've covered it all. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate and admire the journey that you've been on throughout your life, the hard conversations that you've had with yourself. We didn't even get into the parent thing, but clearly, you healed that relationship. But next time. And thank you for sharing your story with my audience, because these are the stories that are essential for entrepreneurs having the success that they want, to have the conversations that they don't want to have, to look at the things they don't want to look at, and to achieve the results that they want based on how they serve others. So, Rae, thank you for being on For Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, one last thing. If you're feeling stuck in business life, wherever, download my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. In this book, you'll see how the stories that you tell yourself are stopping yourself from living your greatest life. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text the word GAP. It's a short read, it's fun, it's easy. And if you hate reading like I do, you can grab the audiobook. It's at that same link. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. You'll love it. All right, that's it. Go out there and be badass today.